I invested £25,000. Today, that investment is worth £5 million.
Say hello to our hero, the Hydrogen Energy Release Optimizer. Limitless power, zero emissions.
Take the first step towards online privacy. Get NordVPN.
Hi, everybody. This is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto. Well, actually, working with you to get rich with silver, because silver is money. So is Bitcoin and so is gold. I am joined by the silver guru, David Morgan. Really delighted to have him back on my channel again. And before I introduce him, please subscribe, follow me on Twitter, CryptoRichYT. I'm going to be posting my videos on Twitter as well, as soon as I sort my life out and sort my act out. But also, please subscribe and follow me on bit.ly/CryptoRichOdyssey, the censorship resistant platform. Email sign up, no KYC or anything like that. And you can earn LBR coins like crypto, which is a crypto, just for watching videos. And you support my work on a censorship resistant platform. And also join my official Telegram announcements channel. And I shall have your links in the description below. David, great to be back. For those of you, do you want to quickly introduce yourself? And for people who are new to you?
You put me on the spot. Yeah, I'm just, I've been fascinated. You might even say obsessed about money from a very early age. I was 11 years old when the money went from silver into what I call the Johnson slug. And I noticed the new quarters were cupro nickel and not silver. And I go, how in the world could these be worth the same? Because I had saved my $10 worth of silver for doing my chores around the house. And the adults didn't seem to pay any attention to it. But the real money, Gersham's law took effect. All the vending machines that had, silver quarters quickly disappeared, and all you saw in there were the Johnson slugs. And a lot of people just scooped it up. It took a while. It wasn't like overnight, but it happened rather rapidly. So that kind of piqued my interest about money. And then I started reading more and more about it, and I learned about people like Warren Buffett and all that. And I thought, how can you make a living by being an investor? And that fascinated me, that you could own a business by buying stock in a company. People say, oh, one of the big American dreams, or it used to be, is to own their own business. But really, when you buy a stock, you are an owner of that business. But people buy these cheap stocks that are losers rather than buying going concerns that make a lot of profit. But if you're going to go into business and you didn't make a profit, you would be out of business. So why not buy the businesses that throw off a lot of cash? And that's pretty much what Buffett's done in most of his career. He's made some errors here and there. But really, if you study him, I'll say the way I've studied him, and I've studied him through other people as well. Really, it's common sense investing. I mean, buying Gillette. Well, when you buy Gillette, the population of the planet has doubled since Kennedy's assassination. So it's a consumable. It's used every day by half the population. The males and females shave too. And that's just a growth stock. What about, Coca-Cola? Same story, sugar water. Come on, how valuable is it? It costs nothing to make, but they sell it in a red can and make you feel good. They're not selling drink. They're selling youthfulness. They're selling being popular. They're selling being liked. That's what Coke sells. Yeah, so I won't go on and on about, but I just find it fascinating. So basically, when I learned about the monetary system, and I learned about fiat money and honest money, what we call sound money, that's kind of what clicked. And I just have been on that exciting venture ever since, really.
Great. And your website, themorganreport.com?
Correct.
And your Twitter handle, and you offer a free service for, and you got a YouTube channel, and people can follow your stuff there, and a free email newsletter, and also a paid service for people who want to get your expertise in terms of which particular, I think, mining stocks and
primarily resource stocks. That's correct. And across the board, although it's primarily silver and gold at this point, we have a couple of uranium, one technology situation that's going down the tubes, but it's a speculation. So if you do what I tell you to do, bet what you can afford to lose. A lot of people don't do that, but that's what I teach. So, and I've got a new speculative pick in the Silver Valley, which is only a couple hours from where we're sitting in my house here. And I guess that's about it. So back to you.
Great. Okay. Well, I have the links in the description below, and people can go and follow you and find out and everything. And it's really, really great to have you back, because before I discovered Bitcoin, I discovered gold and silver. And I remember listening to you, I think 12 years ago, and what you were saying and learning from you and everything, right? So doubly thrilled to have you back, right? You have been one of my real sound money gurus. Now, just tell us anything exciting or interesting that's happening in the world of gold and silver and money and stuff, because, Bitcoin's gone from the bear market to the early stages of the bull market. Silver and gold aren't really doing anything because they keep smashing the price by producing digital silver and digital gold.
Yeah, I can update you on my thinking, and really a lot of it's based on fact. I try to do as much as possible on fact and leave the opinion out. But of course, my services, the paid services, my research, and there's others. It's a group of people, but it's our research, and basically it boils down to our opinion. I mean, there's certain stocks that are undervalued, and I can prove it by any arithmetic, but they never go anywhere. And having so much experience in these markets, I know that when it may not look as valuable, will move. And so why not get on that? Why not own that company or that store, whatever you want to think of it as. So anyhow, gold is in about where I'd expect it to be. I know that's probably disappointing gold bugs, but it's at the point where it needs to break out. And the breakout's above 2,000. And once it gets above 2,000, it stays there. So resistance becomes support. So there's a lot of resistance around the 2,000 area. It's been penetrated, I think, 3 times. And the 4th time through, it probably will stay there and continue. And once it continues, it could go to 3,000. My target's unknown. No one can really know. I'm not one of these that's, it's going to be 50,000 or even 15, although 15 would be like M0, true money supply. But I'm seeing at least 5, perhaps 10. But, these are just paper prices. And when you think about that, what you really are saying is, well, how much will the dollar deteriorate? And if the dollar goes in half from where it is now, which is about 2.5 cents, so it's worth 1.25 cents from what it was in 1913, and gold goes from 2,000 to 6,000, it's done more than the depreciation of the dollar. In other words, gold has tripled while the dollar's been cut in half. I think the math's easy for everyone to follow, but so gold is pretty much doing its job. I expect it to break out above 2,000 before the end of the year. And silver, of course, is harder to analyze because it's both an industrial metal and a monetary metal. And we are in a situation where there's a much tighter market than the price would indicate. The amount of silver that's being used in solar is basically going off the charts. And it looks like by 2025, 2026, just the solar industry alone may use up to like 20% of the silver market. Right now, it's about 12. And so that's just the solar industry, not counting the 55% that's used in industry right now. And then you've got jewelry, which still will be there, and silverware is about 4% of the market. So how much is investment demand? And that's what's the kicker. It's invested demand that will move the price, just like it will in gold. I mean, gold's not really invested in as jewelry other than the Asian countries. Because in the Asian countries, there's not the markup in jewelry that there is in the West. In other words, you could buy a necklace for pretty much melt value. Not exactly, but pretty close. So that's why especially in India, and a lot of the Eastern countries, they buy gold as jewelry, but also as money at the same time. Coming back to that point, silver is really poised to make a move, but it's below the 200-day moving average right now, which would make technicians pretty upset. And yet, if you look at commitment of traders, it's done a real flip-flop right now where basically the smart money is going long silver, and that doesn't happen very often. So I think we're poised for a big move in silver at some point. I'm just thinking that like gold making a breakout by the end of this year, we will see silver make a breakout above 30. And I don't know who or how much is involved at the 30 marker, $30, and it's not exactly 30, but that range, because somebody has defended that area for a long time and very, very obviously. I mean, not only by the chart action, but Rostam Benham comes out and says we've got to tamp down the silver market, and he works at the CFTC. And what kind of a conflict of interest is that? So I think once silver gets above 30, 33, somewhere in that range, there's not much stopping it to go to 50. I'm not saying it's going from 33 to 50 in a day, but I do think that the sky's the limit for silver at some point. And I don't want to get people too excited and say, oh, David said it's going to 50 this year. I'm not. I'm saying I hope it breaks 30, and I think it will. Having said all that, I just want to give that the real background, and that's, Michael Burry is massively short the stock market right now. And I've been saying, and I've been wrong, I've been looking at this distribution pattern where we're making these new highs, but pretty much a flat line going slightly up, which means distribution. It means the smart money is selling carefully into the dumb money so they can cash out. And they need to cash out till they get to where they're ready to short the market. and then they short the market and they pull the rug out from everybody, and all the pension plans and the 401ks and the RRSPs and everything else that's involved in the market gets pulled down, while the smart money has not only sold at the high, they've also shorted at the high, and so they make money on both directions. And I think that's going to take place in October this year. Again, I'll caution everybody, my timing on tops has been pretty good. My tops calling in the metals has been perfect. Luck, skill, whatever. In the bond market, not so much, although I did catch pretty close to the top in bonds. But in the stock market, I've called for, some type of correction for some time. And when it happened in March of 2020 with the illness, I thought at the time that was it. And it made a big down move, so did the metals. And yet the stock market bounced right back, which wasn't what I thought would happen, but it did. Not surprising looking backwards. So be prepared for October. If I'm correct, or whenever the stock market sells off very substantially, then you will expect to see even gold go down. But like in 2008, it will go down less than everything else, and it'll be the first to bounce back.
Right, because people will seek it as a hedge, as a refuge from the chaos elsewhere. And one thing that I have learned, despite my fondness for cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular, is gold is the ultimate form of money. Everything is measured against gold. The dollar, silver, Bitcoin, everything. Gold is the foundation of it all.
Okay. I have to stop you there and interrupt for a second.
Come on, all right.
The late great Jim Dines, who wrote the Dines letter. In fact, Jim was pretty instrumental in wanting me to get into this business. But he calls gold the monetary hitching post of the universe.
Yep. Everything is tied to gold, yes. And people don't get it because they're not educated about money, which is why people should subscribe to your free service at the very, very least. Now, you said uranium. And uranium's a little bit interesting nowadays because of what's happening between France and Niger. Now, we're recording this on Monday, the 14th of August. I posted today, I posted a 3-part conversation I did with Tom Luongo and Alex Craner. And one of the things we talked about is France's colonial extraction of uranium from Niger. How France is able to buy uranium for pennies on the dollar. Massive discount because of its colonial ties. And I think Niger uses the colonial franc, so they don't even have their own currency. And the colonial franc is tied to the euro. Nice one, France. And then France gets it for pennies and then on-sells that nuclear power from that uranium to its populace for 22 cents per kilowatt hour. And then on-sells it to other European nations, Netherlands and Germany. They pay 50 cents per kilowatt hour. So then it keeps their coffers inflated, making them look a whole lot healthier than they are. But now Niger is saying, no uranium for you. And Niger is France's biggest supplier of uranium. Any comment you want to make about that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is the beginning of what's been written about. My friend Adrian Day wrote a book called Resource Wars. And that terminology has been used in our sector for quite some time. It just isn't, talked about because there haven't been too many instances like you just outlined. But they're coming more and more. Mexico talked about lithium, and this play that I've got that's a speculation that's over in the Silver Valley. They have a huge title to a lot of lithium in Mexico, but it's going to be a struggle to keep the title. They're seeing it more and more where mines or assets are nationalized because, it's in my backyard. And you're a Canadian company, and we have an agreement. Now, there'll be a lot of fighting about it because of NAFTA. NAFTA probably opened up the world to, as Ross Perot said, the great sucking sound of all the jobs leaving the U.S. and going outside the U.S. So it's not as it's easier said than done, but it is happening, and it will continue, and it will accelerate. And as the oil situation manifests again, you'll see it in oil at some point, in my view, which means countries that are exporters now continue to use more and more oil, which means they have less to export, which means it's going to be more and more difficult for the world that depends on oil from another country. And oil's already above, 82 right now, having come off in the 60s. So watch the energy markets, watch for more. This is my asset. It's my lithium. It's my rhodium. It's my uranium. and that will continue. And when people get desperate, I'm talking about not individuals, but nation states, such as Nigeria, you'll see that more and more. And that means there's going to be a struggle for everything, and primarily energy, and really one that's not talked about much at all. And I just put it on my Twitter feed about a week ago, and someone put up a good tweet on water or Burry, I forget which. Anyway, it jogged my memory that in The Big Short, the very end of the movie said Dr. Burry's looking at one thing and one thing only, and that's water. So there's going to be issues over water as well. So all these resources, and I'm not trying to paint a doom gloom. I'm just saying what it is. I base this on, pretty substantial dives into these subjects, and not call them as I see them, and that's what I see right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got nation states behaving so badly, not just with each other, but with their own populations.
Right.
And I think the Niger is interesting. So one of the things that I learned a few months ago is that there are 33 third world nations that don't have their own currency. 14 of them use the colonial franc, and the other 19 use the euro. So they don't have monetary, they're the nations in the European Union. They don't have monetary sovereignty. And I think with Russia and China being able to, Niger say, and the other African nations, Francophone nations saying, listen, no, you don't come in. You don't come in. We got Russia and China. We'll go to them.
Right.
And right now, they don't want an extractive relationship because Russia doesn't need Niger's uranium. It has its own.
Sure.
Yeah, but what they do want to do is undermine the European Union and the United States and NATO, understandably, from their perspective. And meanwhile, European nations, European people are just going to get colder and colder and colder, thanks to Greta and the climate change cultists. Okay. Okay. So what will happen to the uranium market? Where will Niger sell its uranium to? And where will France go to get it? And will France give up on Niger?
Well, that's to be determined. Obviously, that's a safe answer on my part, but I think that's ultimately what will happen. And of course, uranium is an open market. And I think what will happen is Russia or China or both, one or the other probably will come in and say, look, we'll help you develop it. And we just want to settle, you can sell it for what it's worth instead of cheaply to France. And we just want you to transact in rubles,
right,
or you want. And so there'll be another, anti-US dollar policy, you might say, where they've got an asset that's a commodity on the world markets, sell it at the world market price, and take it in a currency outside of the US dollars. I want to comment on another thing about what you said about, not having monetary sovereignty. There's a lot of countries that still use the US dollar. 60% of all printed bills are outside the United States.
Mm.
So if you're in Argentina and you have the Argentine peso, which you do, but with the black market, they don't use it because it's depreciating so fast. So they use the US dollar. So there's many instances like that around the world where these countries that have massive inflation use the US dollar instead of their local currency.
Right. Well, just on that, I was in Sierra Leone last week for a cryptocurrency project called Cagitel. They're building high-speed Wi-Fi, solar-powered high-speed Wi-Fi in Sierra Leone, then Guinea-Bissau, and they were kind enough to invite me out. It was fabulous. I just loved it. Loved being in Sierra Leone. Never thought I'd ever be in a place like that. Much colder than poorer than Pakistan, tragically.
Mm.
And southwest of Niger in West Africa, if people want to know where it is. And I got talking to some of the locals there, and Sierra Leone has gold and it has diamonds. But you wouldn't know it because, as a former British colony, British companies have an extractive relationship where they, like the French in Niger, they take away most of the wealth and they leave the Sierra Leoneans impoverished, living hand to mouth, and their currency is next to worthless. I went with 6 people. It's a cash economy, and we can talk about cashless economies and cash economies. I went with 6 people to a top restaurant for a meal, and the bill came to $170. So the guy who was paying took out of his plastic bag a 3-inch pile of Sierra Leones. It laid on top, 3-inch pile on the table, and that was $170. Now, was it $170? It would hardly make less than a millimeter. And Bitcoin, of course, well, doesn't make any pile at all, right? But that was, oh my gosh, that's what it's like. And it is a cash economy. Even in the hotel where I stayed in, they don't take credit cards or anything like that. The top restaurants, they all want cash. which can make the transition to CBDCs a whole lot more difficult, except, and you mentioned this before we started recording, and I can share with you my experience of this, they have digital IDs. They're in Sierra Leone, they're rolling out digital IDs. And in Pakistan, you can't get a mobile phone unless you have a digital ID. I have a Pakistani ID, it's digital. With my fingerprint on it, it's biometric. And the same with India, the Aadhaar ID card, which is tied to everything. You want to pay for your gas and electricity, you want to open a bank account, a mobile phone, you have to present your Aadhaar ID. Because everybody has a mobile phone and they can get this actual machine-readable card.
Right.
So do you want to say something about the transition from cash? Because given that most of the world is cash-based.
Yeah, I'm just repeating what you said. It's going to be more difficult, I think, than the elitists believe. Of course, they'll force you into it as much as possible. I mean, you can't do anything without a digital ID. If you're unbanked, you have to be banked, and then the UBI, Universal Basic Income, which comes back to this world coin that was started by this gentleman that is a technocrat and pure built on technocracy. And, you get free money. All you have to do is put your iris scan into the silver globe and free money pops out. So I think over 2 million people have already done it just for, the thrill of it or the money aspect or whatever. But it's a precursor, or could be the direct one for, I think, the UBI. So this technology is coming faster and faster. It's definitely accelerating. And now most people that were unfamiliar with anything to do with the blockchain at least know the terminology. They've got a vague or somewhat better understanding than they had, let's say, a decade ago. It's more talked about, and I think there's more adoption than there's ever been before because, the millennials are very quick to adopt to it, as are other generations outside of mine. But it's coming, and it's going to be like the tech wreck, in my view. There are a lot that just jumped on the bandwagon and did a XYZ.com and got money for it, but they blew away pretty quick. I think the same thing's going to take place in the crypto world. We've already seen that. The problem with the crypto world right now, in my view, is that the powers that be, the elitists, are seeing it as a competitor, as I wrote about in 2014. And I said, if it ever got to that point, watch out, Big Brother's going to come in and make sure that they get the lion's share of it, which is kind of what's happening with the crackdown that you're seeing on these exchanges. Some can't even exchange certain coins, right? Yep. So I know you're closer to it than me, but I got to keep my handle on it. I mean, I've been, writing in the report about blockchain for years now because it is what they're pushing for. So anyway, my point being is that kind of what I saw back in 2014 is right in front of us right now. Who's going to come to what cream is going to rise to the top? It's hardly going to be cream, but what they want is centralized digital currencies. They won't get rid of all the decentralized, but they will probably put regulations in place for our own good that you can only use Bitcoin for personal transactions. You can't use it for a utility bill. You can't use it as collateral to get a loan on a house and stuff like that. Now, maybe that's how I see it. I could be wrong, but I really do see where they want to push everybody into their system or keep them in their system rather than giving them the alternatives. Will the alternatives be there? You bet. Just like gold and silver are still there. Even if it's outlawed, which I highly doubt, but even if it is, doesn't stop it. It just goes underground, and it's really the free market. Of course, the government calls it black market because they want to dissuade as many people as possible from having that kind of freedom. So,
yeah. And then there's, I don't know how familiar you are with privacy cryptocurrencies like Pirate Chain and Monero. Yeah. Because I think what will happen is we will have the emergence of this alternative economy, because with Pirate Chain and Monero, there's no transaction history, there's no data analytics, and people will go to that in order to preserve their own freedom and privacy. And I do think the CBDCs will fail.
Yeah.
I think you're going to say it will fail for all sorts of reasons. And one particular reason, and I want to give a plug to a particular series of videos that I've recorded, David, and it applies to all countries. This process that I'm going to say applies to all countries that are signed up to the International Criminal Court. So not Russia, not China, not the US. But and I'll just refer to Britain. It is illegal in Britain to pay any form of tax or levy or fine. And I did a video with a guy who's a peace campaigner, and I'll link to that in the description below, and people can find out how. There's a way and how it is there were two acts that were passed in 2000 and 2001 that defined what terrorism is, defined what genocide is, and made it illegal for any agency to fund any agency that carries out acts of terror or acts of genocide. Now, genocide is the killing of one or more of more than one person as part of some sort of project for racial, religious, ethnic, or national grounds.
Exactly.
The British government is not excluded. So if I pay money to the British government in any form whatsoever, I am committing a criminal act. And the British government, by asking me to pay that, are also committing a criminal act. And this guy's not paid his local government tax since 2016. Every year they send him a bill. Every year he tells them this. They write it off and they come back the next year. And he says he's using trust law, which I don't understand much about, but it's the way how the super rich keep their money away from the tax authorities. So it's a very simple process. And I do invite people to go and check out that video. I'll link to it in the description below. Because what we then do by engaging in a tax revolt, like the tea drinkers in Boston did, is we assert our control and take back our power and stop these authoritarians from building digital prisons for us. We starve them of funds. So just want to give a plug to that. Do check it out and share that video.
No, I'm glad you did.
Tax revolt is successful.
Another one that came to mind was Max Egan. You probably are familiar with that name. Yes. You know, I've known Max for quite some time and spent time with him physically. I met him at Acapulco several years ago. And he came to this city some time ago and I helped him out, give him a ride here and there. Anyway, the point being is that on one of his recent videos, he said, well, I identify, because I identify as a cat, or I identify as a this, or I identify that. So some of these things you can, you know, turn them against them, you know, put the rocks in their wheelbarrow and let them start struggling up the hill. And you can do it with stuff that they've already created, as you just outlined. So I just want to add on to that, Max. Well, I identify as a free man and a sovereign being. And because I identify as a sovereign being, I have the right to say anything I want to say. And I won't say exactly what he said, but he made the point, well, if you could identify as a cat, I could identify as a free man. You know, and it was true. I mean, you know, free man, I don't have to put up with your, you know, BS laws that you write down on a piece of paper.
Oh, wow, that's really good.
It was like, I mean, Max is, you know, I really like him, and I like his deep thinking, but it's in layman's terms almost always. And just common sense philosophy that he does that has woken a lot of people. And he's, probably controversial, not in my book, because, you know, I think so much like him, but I just thought, wow, that's just so funny because they're using their, you know, they're using their game back on them.
But things like autonomy and liberty and sovereignty and freedom, those are very controversial, dangerous ideas. Just
now they are. Yeah, well, I was talking to some random people just 2 or 3 days ago, and I remember my quote. I haven't said it in a while, but speaking the truth, and oh gosh, what is it? Speaking the truth in sometimes is a revolutionary act, and that's George Orwell. Sorry, I screwed up the quote, but you know that's where we're at. When you speak the truth now, speaking the truth in times of universal deceit is a revolutionary act. Yeah, and this is where we are. I mean, everything is upside down. I mean, you know, only the official news can tell you what's true, and they do it with fact checkers and all that. And the thing about AI that's really interesting in my thinking is if AI was open source and had access to both sides of every argument, it would be able to find the truth, and it might actually be beneficial to mankind. But since it's been programmed with garbage in, garbage out, it's got a huge bias on the woke side of the equator. And that's really upsetting because nothing's more powerful than the truth for everyone, always and everywhere. That's what works. And of course, they're not letting that work because they want it to be their truth. And their truth is they're superior to us useless eaters. And they're going to make darn sure that they get the control and we get to be happy with nothing.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. No, David, thank you so much. Now, you wanted to ask me a question about XRP.
One of my clients asked me directly, would I ask you your opinion on XRP?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not an expert on XRP. I'm not an expert on crypto or Bitcoin. I'm not an expert on anything really. So people should always do their own due diligence and check things out, because I make mistakes, and there's stuff about, in particular, XRP I don't know. I have held XRP for short periods and then cashed out and stuff. I'm not a fan of it. Here's what's great about XRP. This is what's great about it. It's incredibly fast and cheap. It's really, really fast and cheap to transact with. My concerns is that it's centralized nature. That I think if I have 20, I always have to keep 20 XRP in my wallet. So when I bought some XRP and I sold, there was 20 XRP left I couldn't take out. Well, what's that about? And the fact that it's so centralized, could the code be changed? I don't know. Then what's to its favor is the fact that it's got big money backing it. And
Yeah.
that could, it's like BlackRock going to buy Bitcoin. They want a Bitcoin ETF. Okay, well, they start competing with Michael Saylor for Bitcoin. Okay, well, I'm going to benefit because the price of Bitcoin is going to go up. I'm not selling my
Right.
Bitcoin, right? So I think in that way, I think XRP could do very, very well. People talk about this quantum Gasara and stuff, and I don't know. I just
I'll jump in there real quick. I did an interview recently, and anyone that's interested, just go to themorganreport.com, go to the blog tab, pull the blog tab down, hit blog, and then type in the search engine on the right-hand side, Crypto Conspiracy. I've done 30 or 31 interviews about crypto specifically. But I agree with you on your last statement.
it's just a lot of talk. People talking about it for ages and ages and ages, and there's no. And how are you going to get free money from? And why does it have to be XRP, a centralized one? Why can't it be like Pirate Chain or Monero? Give that out for free.
Yeah, I love the Monero philosophy and Pirate Chain. They're both. That's what we want. We want anonymity in our transactions. I want to be able to go to the flea market and buy whatever I want. And it's nobody else's damn business. What it is. But if you do that, you're buying drugs or you're buying something illicit or whatever. That happens, of course. But for the most part, no. Maybe I bought a piece of artwork, or I got a great deal on an antique book, and the guy didn't even know what it was, and I bought a $150 book for $5, or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
I'm getting off track. I'll give it back.
We're just back to XRP. It has a sister token, XLM, which was somebody in the XRP original team who forked XRP, I understand, and created XLM, Stellar Lumens, which is decentralized and just as fast and just as quick, lower price. I'm not sure about the tokenomics. I have held XLM every now and then because I get paid in it sometimes. But I think that's ethically way better than XRP. Will it do as well as XRP? Well, as XRP goes up, XLM goes up. Like Bitcoin goes up, Litecoin goes up. But Bitcoin is Bitcoin and Litecoin ain't Bitcoin. Litecoin has advantages, right? But it ain't Bitcoin. So
that's interesting. Yeah, I hate to keep jumping in, but Stellar is it's one of my members. A lot of them, they have the ability to contact me through the website or as a paid member, and the people that aren't can definitely get a hold of us. But talked about Stellar is actually the coin that's on that 1988 Economist cover with the phoenix rising on top of the burning currency, and they make a pretty good case that emblem is the same emblem as Stellar, and all the benefits. Now, I'm not saying it is. What I am saying, it was very interesting to hear the argument that Stellar is like that coin that's on that phoenix. So did they know that far in advance? And having been in the black world for some time in the aircraft industry, I wouldn't put it past them that far ahead.
Right. Or Stellar, because Stellar could have just copied The Economist, maybe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot stranger going on than we know about. David, anything you want to say before we finish up? Anything we haven't covered you want to let people know about?
No, I just think I want to reiterate what you said. I mean, Leo Zagami called the Great Reset, the Great Reject. I agree with him and I agree with you. I think it's going to be easier said than done. It may not happen at all. But the corollary to that is something that's somewhat scary, and that is that the banks lose control. In other words, maybe some money center banks shut down and can't transact due to someone hacking them, a cyber attack, a withdrawal, a bond market crashing. I mean, there's a lot of black swans out there flying around. And it only takes one to start a contagion. I mean, let's just say that there's a cyber attack on a major money center bank that can't make transactions. that basically has a contagion effect across the whole industry because all these banks are interconnected. And yeah, you could transact with gold, you could transact with Bitcoin. There's other transactions you could make, that are outside the system and good for having that or that ability. But when it comes down to the major system, we're all vulnerable because we all depend on, utility bill. Try paying a utility bill without being in the system. It's pretty hard. So that's what worries me the most is cybersecurity. I think that's where the real war is. I mean, we're distracted about, there's going to be nukes and there's going to be limited nukes in Ukraine and Russia. And not that that isn't real, but I don't think the scare of that is as valid as a all-out cyber attack or a limited EMP, either natural or man-made. We have an electromagnetic pulse that takes out some of the electronic forms in a given area that would cause havoc up and beyond what most people can imagine. And hopefully it wouldn't last that long. The problem with a real severe EMP is it goes into what's called a black start. And a black start is when enough of the electrical grid is down that they don't have enough power to start it back up. Now you're back into, the 1800s. I'm not saying any of this is going to happen. You ask me my concern. I'm more concerned about cyber attack than I am a nuclear weapon.
Okay, that's the risk, which is why it's useful to hedge in gold, silver, Bitcoin, pemmican, water, good relationships, good community. Now, I just remember one particular question, something that's happening August 22nd, which is the launch of the BRICS trade settlement currency. So it's not going to be a retail currency. It's going to be used to settle trade between state actors. And my understanding is it's going to be pegged to the weight of gold. So one BRICS coin, which will be digital, will be pegged to, I don't know, let's say 1 ounce of gold. So not the price of gold, not the dollar value of gold or anything, but the weight of gold. Anything you want to say about how you think that might play out in the money markets and with gold and silver in particular?
I will. I did our whole editorial was on that last month's paid version of the Morgan Report. Bottom line right now is, one, we don't know for sure, but I think it's overblown at this point as far as what's going to happen soon. What's going to happen soon, in my view, is the announcement, but not the actual action of it. There's several problems, and one is it's not convertible. Until it's convertible, it can't be trusted. And then there's the trust factor between these nation states. How much does Brazil trust Russia? How much does Russia trust Brazil? Not that they shouldn't, but that there's, like the euro, I mean, you have much different cultures in, let's say, Greece than you do in Germany, but yet they're both on the same currency. Well, it doesn't work very well because the work ethic's different, the vacation idea is different, and everything else. Same thing here. You've got Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the Saudis, and they all have different cultures. And who trusts who? It's a bit cumbersome in my view. I don't think it's going to be enacted that easily. But the idea is sound, and it's obvious that the end of the age of empire is upon us, and there's big solutions to the hegemony of the U.S. dollar. And this is just one more indicator that it could be a very significant one in the future. I don't see it being implemented very easily or very quickly. And I'm going to do follow-up next month because we're getting more data. And I'm a deep thinker. I don't always get it right, but I don't think there's much to fear from it at this point. And the last thing is, if it came on board, it was implemented on the 22nd of August, and they haven't. You can start buying it or whatever. You still have all that debt that's U.S.-based. So if you're in Pakistan and you've got a debt in U.S. dollars, you still have to convert the local currency into U.S. dollars to be able to pay that debt off. And that's how the U.S. has been able to basically colonize the world, basically. You talked about Niger earlier with France, but you can think of the U.S. as the age of empire, and they basically colonized everybody because they've given these loans to these foreign entities, foreign countries, and extracted real wealth like silver from Mexico and lithium from other places and all that. And it's a great game. I mean, if you could have a printing press in your backyard and make money for nothing, and then get real assets around the world and be the top dog, I mean, that's quite a job if you get it.
Very good, very interesting. Thank you. We shall see how it plays out. And sure, by people following you on Twitter and subscribing to your service, they will get top-class knowledge and information analysis. David, it's absolute joy talking to you. Thank you so much. And please do check out themorganreport.com and check out his YouTube channel and Twitter and all of that. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with freedom and gold profits. This is the Silver Guru and Crypto Rich signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.